Hades has a lot of weapons to help you get out of the underworld, from swords and shields to a freaking gun. But there's one attack that is consistently good between all of them. And of course, as you might have guessed, it's the cast. I feel like people don't really think about the cast much. It's just a thing that you have that shoots out something. Nice to have on shorter range weapons while being questionably useful for ranged weapons. But you know, it's the normal cast. It don't do that much damage and it's not very interesting to begin with, which is why boons are a thing in this game. Compared to the other boons that go into these attack slots, cast boons change the projectile quite a bit. Well, to be fair, not all the gods change the projectile that much. One half definitely changes it more than the other. So this is a video about how broken casts can be. I'm not going to go into the detail of every version of the cast because it's going to take a while. Instead, I'm going to blitz through what every god does. Artemis makes it really hard to miss, Poseidon makes it into a really big explosion, Zeus makes it bounce between targets and walls, Athena makes it into orb, Eris makes it a fidget spinner, Demeter makes a crystal that shoots a laser, Aphrodite turns your ranged cast into a melee cast, finally Dionysus turns it into a lob shot, akin to grenades. Fun fact, Dionysus' cast is one of the few projectiles in the game that ignore shields. I think Ares and Artemis also do this, but I'm only mentioning it for Dionysus because it's Dionysus. Anyways, after we got all that out of the way, there are 3 reasons why casts are broken. The first one is the amount of combos that make the casts better. The most important one being a duo boon called Mirage Shot. It shoots a second cast that does 30% damage, which just sounds like a 30% damage bonus, but since it's actually shooting a second cast projectile, it both has the same effects as your current cast and gets affected by the same things you have. Meaning that it can lead to over 30% damage at times. Plus, Artemis and Poseidon aren't bad to have in a run, though Poseidon might cause some problems with certain weapons. Oh, and don't forget about Chaos. Getting the boon that increases cast damage, or number of casts, can easily skyrocket your damage. The second reason is the fact that casts scale better compared to weapon attacks. Both palms and rarity affect casts a lot more than normal, which is, to be fair, a good and bad thing. In the setting of a combo, the difference between a common, rare, and epic cast is pretty noticeable. Using Zeus's cast as an example, even in a simple combo of Mirage Shot and Chaos boons, you can see the chunk of damage that's missing. Same goes for palms. Having a level 1 versus a level 3, which is 2 palms by the way, you can see the chunk of health that's missing. Plus, casts get more from palms compared to weapon attacks. This makes sense since you don't fire your cast off as often as specials or normal attacks, so it needs to be able to do a bit of burst damage to be worth it. And it's definitely worth it. Getting a rare cast with 2 palms is it's not very hard. Now, all that I've been saying is nice and all, but that's just what makes casts a good attack. For it to be broken, it needs something special. Thus, in comes the third and final reason. Cast-focused weapons. There are 3 cast-focused weapons and 3 that can affect casts but not focused on casts. So, let's go through them for a bit. First, and the worst on the list, we have Gilgamesh. I like this weapon, but I cannot deny that it does not help much with casts. Though yes, Maim does boost cast damage by 25%, Gilgamesh being gauntlets tend to stay in enemy attack ranges a lot, meaning that the time it takes to fire the cast is time that you are potentially going to get hit. If for some reason you're planning on focusing casts with Gilgamesh, you're going to have to use the hit and run tactic, or as I like to call it, being a wuss. It's not the greatest feeling in the world, but it works. Next up is Eris, and the only reason that it's here at second worst is because I am only looking at how well it affects casts. If I go into all of the shenanigans Eris can do, this won't be a how broken casts are video, it's going to be a the many shenanigans of Eris video. So talking in terms of casts, it's pretty good. 75% damage boost is better than what Gilgamesh can do, and getting that 75% is much easier. Now for an actual cast-focused weapon, we have Hera. It has the ability to load cast into its next shot, shooting them out with the arrow dealing massive burst damage. This is one of the 2 weapons that can exploit Demeter's Ravenous Will boon. Any cast you load into the bow is counted as used, meaning that if all the casts are loaded, you get the bonus damage and defense from Ravenous Will. Snowburst is also something Hera can use, as it procs every time you load a cast into your bow, but it's not very good at using it. A weapon that works extremely well with it though is Poseidon. It has a passive 50% cast damage bonus and has the ability to dislodge casts with its special. By using Demeter's Snowburst and Artemis's Exit Wounds, it can lead to a lot of DPS. It is a bit dangerous since casts take a bit of time to fire. You also need to be close-ish for the Snowburst to hit, but you could just use Athena if you need protection. There are 2 combos that work well with this weapon. One is your basic Mirage Shot combo, and the other is a Lightning Phalanx Lightning Rod combo. Mirage Shot has more single target DPS, especially with Aphrodite's cast, while these 2 are better for hordes, though still doing well on single targets. Now, I don't really know which one of these are better. It's a tie for me. While Hera is more consistent in the damage it can do, getting a lucky run on Poseidon can lead to a lot of things dying at a very fast pace. With that all done, we have 2 weapons left. The 2 best weapons of cast, the kings of cast, Beowulf and Achilles. Let's start off with Achilles because it's much simpler to explain. Achilles gives you a 150% damage boost after a spear dash, which does apply to your cast. Giving 150% damage to an attack that scales really well with damage boost makes Achilles' cast do a monstrous amount of damage a shot. With the right combinations, you could just chunk a third of a boss's health, while Achilles itself, being a super mobile weapon, can help you dodge attacks and get your cast stones back. It doesn't work well with Dislodge or any of Demeter's things, but the Lightning Phalanx Lightning Rod combo still works extremely well. Highly recommend it. As for Beowulf, it has the same thing as Hera, where you load the cast into your attack. In Beowulf's case, it's going to be in the shield charge. The casts don't get lodged into enemies, so Artemis's Exit Wounds are useless. And the number of explosions is dependent on how many casts you load. This means that you can either shove all of your casts into one charge to burst enemies down like what Hera does, or single cast charge spam your way through everything akin to Poseidon. It's a best of both worlds, which makes it super versatile. Oh, and let's not forget the fact that this is a shield, meaning that you can block attacks while charging. Also, getting charge shots from a hammer is pretty good. Adds more damage to your cast burst, and shot spamming is noticeably faster than charge spamming. Anyways, this is the beautifully broken world of casts. They're nice to have on every weapon, but only these 6, technically 4, and in reality 2 weapons that can make the cast truly broken.